Valuable insights often occur when you least expect them. On Transformative Leadership Conversations, they're at the heart of every episode. Hi, I'm your host, Winnie Da Silva, and together we're exploring a spectrum of leadership themes through the compelling stories and insights of seasoned leaders and prominent experts. In each episode, you'll walk away with inspiration, strategies, and tools to enhance your leadership, build effective teams, and lead thriving organizations. Today's episode is one I've been really looking forward to. My guest is Dr. Neri Karra Sillaman, and her story is really nothing short of remarkable. So she's a former child refugee turned global entrepreneur, Oxford professor, thought leader, and now the author of the book Pioneers: 8 Principles of Business Longevity from Immigrant Entrepreneurs. And in it, she shares her compelling research and lived insight into what makes immigrant-led businesses not only succeed, but truly endure. In her book, Neri shares 8 principles from her research that drive long-term success. So you ready to hear them? Okay, number 1, be a bridge across cultures. Number 2, build from the past forward and the future back. 3, forge connections based on identity and authenticity. 4, generate profit the right way. 5, build community. 6, reframe rejection. I love that one. 7, fry in your own oil. She's going to talk about that in this episode. And lastly, dare to play your hand. So this conversation in particular feels especially timely. As the United States doubles down on increasingly restrictive immigration policies, we are seeing green card holders detained, travelers turned away, and access to education and opportunity rolled back for many people. And yet, the story of immigrants is essentially the story of America. So, whether you're an entrepreneur, a leader, or someone navigating your own version of uncertainty or reinvention, there's definitely something here for you. So, let's get into it. Neri, I am so excited for you to be here on the show. You are actually the last episode in this series, and you are really going to round out everything that everyone else has said up until now. So I'm really excited for you to be here. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. I really love talking to you, so I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Oh, me too. Me too. I really like talking to you too. Yeah, I feel like we've had some really good conversations that could go on for a while. And so here we go. Here we are again. So actually, the first thing that I want to ask you about, it's just so timely that we're talking and that this is a topic for this month. And I'm just wondering how you're doing right now in the midst of everything that's happening, certainly in our country, in America, but the impact that it's also having on the world as it relates to a lot of things, but including immigrants, including, entrepreneurial immigrants as well. So how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, thank you. Personally, the only thing it's it's quite concerning what is happening. Actually, I'm not going to sugarcoat it or try to be apolitical. I don't think this is even political. To me, this is humanity. And when I see what is happening, especially not only in US, but of course US, whether one likes it or not, is almost gives the direction to the world.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
Has a incredible influence as a country. Therefore, the person who leads the country has great responsibility on his or her shoulders. At the same time, I am very concerned to see not only what is happening, the direction that it's going, but another thing that I've started to notice recently is the amount of hateful rhetoric that I see online, in social media, in comments, that whether it's Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, anti-immigration, all hate is hate.
That's right.
It doesn't matter whether you are doing it for a group of people, for a particular religion. To me, it's all is painted with the same brush, and the root of it is all the same. And that's quite concerning to me, especially I know people hide behind usernames but sometimes they even stopped hiding behind usernames. Now these are influencers, these are journalists in quotation marks who are just spewing this very hateful rhetoric. I don't understand how people are cheering for immigrants to be locked up who don't have criminal records. And I'm amazed that how hate is now made okay. No hate should be okay. We've been through this in history. We have seen the consequences. And I am concerned about the future. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it for sure. At the same time, I want to remain hopeful because that's in my nature. And I think it's in the nature of humanity to have optimism and hope. So I want to remain hopeful, but at the same time, we cannot disregard the reality. The reality is staring us in the face.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So that's why it's perfect, your book coming out. So Pioneers, 8 Principles of Business Longevity from Immigrant Entrepreneurs. Now, that's just one slice of kind of what's happening in the world, but I feel like what you've done in your book is really sort of frame the benefits of and the contributions, right, that immigrant entrepreneurs have made in the world. And so I imagine that you're feeling pretty good about feeling like you're putting hope out there in terms of reframing that up.
Absolutely. It's interesting because when I started to write the book, I wasn't thinking where the world is going to be a year later. I started writing it a year ago, but actually, the book has been in progress, I would say, for the last 20 years because I'm an immigrant myself. When I went to do my PhD, which was 20 years ago, I focused on the topic of immigrant and ethnic and international entrepreneurship. These were my 3 areas of research. So, and also as I'm someone who is an immigrant, who is a refugee, and we started to build a business from absolute zero.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because I think it's really important. And as you said, this is personal. Like this is your identity, right? In terms of how you grew up and what you've experienced in life. And you have really a tremendous story. So let's actually give some of that background. So you were kind of a forced refugee in I think it was 1989, and you had to immigrate and leave your country with your family. Can you talk just a little bit about that? And then it's like a huge jump to like coming to college in the U.S. and seeing a computer for the first time, and then of course you have a PhD from Oxford. So anyway, but let's start with where your journey began, and thinking about yourself in this identity in this way.
Yeah, it does feel like it's a big jump, but let me go, like you said, to the beginning. I was born in Bulgaria, and during communism, I lived in communism. And the communist government at the time decided to carry out an ethnic assimilation process, which meant they changed our names from Turkish names to Bulgarian names, and it was done forcefully. It took several years. And the camps that are being built today in US remind me of the camps that were being built in communist Bulgaria at the time. So anyone who opposed their names to be changed, anyone who spoke in Turkish was imprisoned in those camps for years. Many people died. So, and yes, we also have the story of Germany and what happened in Germany. That's so when I see what is happening in US today, I'm amazed. I'm amazed.
Yeah. And it's interesting that it started with your name. Like that's so personal. And your name can reflect your ethnic, identity, but it reflects so much more. I mean, like your parents gave you this name and to feel like the government is forcing you to change your name And again, that follows, the imprisonment that you were talking about. But anyway, I just think that's really interesting.
And those, if you opposed your name to be changed, you would end up in concentration prison. A concentration, I mean, it is what it's called. Belene, it was the name.
And how old were you, Neri, when this all took
At the
place?
time, I was from the age of 7 until 11. So exactly when I was at elementary school. So my parents ran ran away in order, it was done systematically. So by the way, this has nothing to do with Bulgarian people themselves, because our Bulgarian neighbors will shelter us. We will sometimes hide in their homes because obviously they were not raiding Bulgarian people's homes. A Bulgarian friend of my father told him, they are going to come to your neighborhood, they are going to come to your street on Saturday. So my parents will take us and we will hide in someone else's home for a week.
Wow. Wow. But what you're making a distinction, which is important, is the government versus the people.
100%. And this distinction exists today in every country, in every culture.
Important thing to say.
Absolutely.
This was happening, it was happening over a period of time, and I think that's another important thing to note is that it's not like a switch that's flipped, right? It's not like all of a sudden, like, everything happens all at once and you're like, "Oh my gosh." It's like it's a slow burn and it slowly happens. But eventually, it sounds like around the age of 11, you did leave Bulgaria with your family.
So the communist dictator at the time, Todor Zhivkov, came on TV and said, we have an agreement with the Turkish government. Anyone who is Turkish needs to leave the country now. And the border will be open. But, for years and years, you are faced with this discrimination, imprisonment, and fear that when they say you have to leave, you pack up a bag and leave, and you don't know what's going to happen if you don't leave. That's another thing. Like, sometimes people will say, "Oh, but you left really yourself." Yeah, but it was a forced. You had to leave. You didn't have much choice. It's not like if you stayed behind. On June 26, 1989, with two suitcases, my 9-year-old brother, me as an 11-year-old, my parents, we left from Bulgaria to Turkey. And it wasn't this simple leaving where you just, first of all, my father's Bulgarian friend found him a car driver that my dad paid off to, and he drove us as close as possible to the Bulgarian border, Bulgarian Turkish border. From there, we walked through the train tracks, and nearby there was a forest. And close to midnight, we finally reached the border and we crossed the border. And I will never forget my father's screams as he ran towards the border. And we finally crossed, and we were set up to live in a refugee camp by Red Cross. Eventually, we tracked a relative who opened her home to us and to 5 other families. That summer, 360,000 Bulgarians of Turkish ethnicity left Bulgaria. And my great-great-great-grandparents have been born in Bulgaria. Many people didn't even speak the Turkish language. And we also generally speak a dialect. We don't speak like the local Turkish people.
Yeah. So it's probably this feeling like you don't belong anywhere, I imagine, even though you are Turkish and you're in Turkey now.
Spot on. And you are not wanted. You are not wanted.
Right, right. Well, and especially since there's so many people, right? It's overwhelming, right, for everyone, right? To feel like, oh, we're absorbing all these people. And yet here you are.
Absolutely. Varsan Shire, Somali British poet, she has a beautiful line. Nobody leaves home unless home has become the mouth of a shark. You only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well. And this is perfect definition of what it is to be a refugee. What it is to leave home and run towards the unknown.
Okay, so I know that your family, they had to then figure out what to do, like how to build a life, how to make money in Turkey now. And from what I understand, one of the things that they did is they ended up selling things, doing things, like kind of surviving. But then they did this incredible thing where they started, I don't know if these are the right words, but like finding discarded leather.
Yes and no. I will explain. So you are right. After we immigrated, I mean, life out of like my aunt's home, we rented a place. My parents did any jobs they could find. We had many nights when we didn't have. I mean, anyway, there was no heating in the house. Very challenging years. No money to buy food, to buy plain bread. But my parents worked. My mom was a cleaner at a factory. That was like the highest paid job she could ever find. She worked in textile factories. Anything you can imagine, any job that was available. And eventually, the Berlin Wall fell down in 1989, and my father was able to go to Russia. He traveled to Russia because communism just ended there as well. And he noticed that people are carrying their belongings in plastic bags. And he thought to himself, there is a business opportunity here. My father has never been an entrepreneur in his life because I mean, we lived in communism. You're not allowed to.
Right, good point, right. Good point.
Same thing in Russia and all the neighboring countries that were coming out of communism. Now people can, there are no, all the institutions that held the country together were gone overnight. No hospitals even, no stores, no place to buy anything. I mean, and then my father, when he was in Turkey, we met a guy, Turkish guy, who had given him his business card. And he said to him, I have a leather product, I make leather products in Turkey. My father kept that card with himself. And years later, once he spots the opportunity, he goes to the same guy and says, remember me? I'm not here to ask for a job in your factory. I have a business idea, which is to sell your products to former communist countries. In those places, there are no leather products, there are no brands. I will take 1% commission from what I sell, but the guy has no risk basically. And that's how my parents started to make a little bit of money, that we were able to eventually rent a two-bedroom place. Really, a tiny, still a very small place, but we were able to be able to afford the rent.
Okay, so, interesting too is that, like, when you think about growing up in a communist country and, it's illegal to start a business, the fact that I mean, I feel like that would just drive out any, instincts for being an entrepreneur. But obviously it didn't for your dad, like and maybe some of it is just the drive to like, how can I make money and not just like subsist, but really thrive, like really actually, make a living.
But same goes for other people who were coming out of communism. People want all people want to live well. They don't want to live in misery, and they want to be able to afford life. We are not talking about becoming billionaires and having ostentatious wealth. But anyway, in the meantime, at the age of 16, I started to work with my parents. So did my brother. When my parents were selling the Turkish products to Russia, to former communist countries, to Ukraine, to Romania, and so on, we we worked together. My parents opened a tiny little apartment. They rented it in the Grand Bazaar area of Turkey, where all these people from communist countries, former communist countries, were arriving, and we put up a sign that said, "Come in, please come in for a homeland cup of coffee." And we wrote it in different languages, from Russian to Ukrainian to Romanian to different languages. And that's how we started to build our customer base.
Just hospitality, essentially.
Hospitality, but also people that you can say we all are in the same boat.
I hear you. I see you. I've been there too.
Yes. And we have the same vision. We all want to create a better life for ourselves. We are in this together. So we never viewed them as customers. And it wasn't this formal relationship. Even the products we will give them for free, in the sense for free, and tell them bring the money when you can bring it back. So the discarded leather part, I started to take Turkish producers, leather producers, to Italy to trade fairs, where the world's most amazing suppliers exhibit their leather skins. Through that, I was able to see, and we will visit their factories as well. I mean, my father was coming with me as well, so I wasn't there all by myself at the age of 16, but I spoke English very well. So that's like, and I was learning Italian at the time. So it was, we would visit the factories of our suppliers, the very same thing that we used, which I detail in my book about homophilic ties, and how you can also do it yourself as an entrepreneur or even in life. The Italian suppliers, they also started to become like family friends to us. We will go to their homes for lunch. We will visit their factories. And then when we were in that factory, both my father and I noticed that they have these leather skins that either have a small defect on them, or they discard, or it's out of season, quote unquote, yeah, something wrong. So this was like in the back of my mind. And then at the age of 18, I received the financial aid to go to University of Miami. I was very driven because it has to do with the fact that when I became a refugee, I knew that the way out of the poverty will be through education.
So there was a turning point in your mind when that happened. Like, I know I want to become educated because that's my way out. From the time that you left and your dad was sort of building this business and the way you've described it is incredible. Um, you then came here for college. And that's the first time you saw a computer. So I want to kind of fast forward because I want to talk about your book too. But you came here, you saw a computer, and I imagine that was like another sort of refugee immigrant experience. Coming here and having seen a computer for the first time and people are thinking like you're weird.
It was I did feel very weird. I definitely say the term fish out of water was invented for me at the time. The year was 1996, and I didn't realize at the time, but I was going to this university that is rather at the time seems to be attracting affluent students who come from very wealthy families. Obviously, I didn't know anything about that. And when I came to Miami, I mean, my experience of becoming refugee doesn't even compare to coming to Miami, because it's a lot more destabilizing. It felt like that. I had one suitcase again, and I arrived on January 6, 1996. And the students had already started their courses in September. So I was coming sort of midterm. Everyone was back in their Christmas vacations at the time. Students didn't come back yet.
Oh, wait, so you came after after Christmas vacation? You didn't come the first semester
No,
in September?
no.
Oh, that's even harder. Oh my gosh. So you were coming at like a time after everyone had established themselves and like so even if that still would have been hard, it's made it even harder that you had that.
And they said, "This is where your room is." I walked in. It's just so I didn't know I have a roommate in that room. I mean, there is a bed there. There are some things, but no, I mean, I'm totally fish out of water, and there is another bed for me, but I have nothing. I have no pillows, no bedding. I don't know what to do. So everything was just felt very foreign, very alien, and I certainly didn't feel that I belong there.
Right. From that point on to now, you have a PhD from Cambridge, and now you've written this book. And I don't want to go into it in too much detail, but it's interesting because I think you were writing a book about something else. And your husband said to you, you should write about what you know. And I love that because everything that you've just said proves that you know about being a pioneer and you know the difficulties to create a business in kind of a land and a country that's not familiar. And yet, the other part of your book, which is really interesting, is it doesn't stop there. It really goes into talking about how immigrant entrepreneurs build businesses that have longevity and are really also focused on purpose. So I kind of want to get into this because you've got these 8 principles, and I'm wondering which one do you think would surprise people? Out of those 8 principles, which one do you think people are be like, oh, huh, never would have thought of that one?
I already am hearing incredible feedback regarding the book because the book is out already. So people are surprised by different things. I think one of my principles, frying your own oil, is the one that is getting a lot of attention, and everyone loves it because it's such a, it's a Turkish saying that I translated, but also it's the foundation, in my opinion, of any immigrant entrepreneur's business.
So, what does that principle mean? Can you explain?
It's to be self-sufficient, and to be self-sufficient, to rely on your own resources, but it's a little deeper than that because frying your own oil, as a saying, means kendi yağında kavrul in Turkish, and it's what my grandfather used to tell me, to tell us. And again, I don't come from a wealthy family. My grandfather himself was very poor, and he was an orphan at a very young age, responsible after 5 brothers and sisters, responsible looking after them. He instilled in us this thought that you have to be self-sufficient. You have to do the very best with what you have. And when I noticed that immigrant entrepreneurs, when they start to build their businesses, they don't necessarily have access to capital, even social capital. So, however, they do the very best with what they have. And if we go a step further, I will argue that this is also a way for you to establish what your sustainable competitive advantage is. In business books, Michael Porter, well, he's to me the grandfather of business strategy, but he also talks a lot about sustainable competitive advantage. Now, when it comes to sustainable competitive advantage, leaders can sometimes either be very harsh on themselves or be very confident in their resources and abilities. But when you apply the concept of frying your own oil, you really get to understand what it is that makes you the only, what it is that makes your business succeed, and it will help last a longer time.
So, like, what makes it unique?
What makes it unique? So think of it as a person. If I left you on a remote island, what will make you survive? You can apply it to a person, but you can also apply it to a business. And another thing, as you know, I advise startups, and I work. Why you said Oxford is maybe because of that. I work at Oxford with startups. So one of the things I noticed, not only in my work there, but There's this immediate desire to get out there and find investors. And especially when it comes to startups, they will look for outside investment. And as the business keeps going, they will inject outsiders' cash into the business without frying in their own oil, which will actually, if they have done that, if they do that, they will first of all see any gaps that are not maybe making their business work as well, but also they will become a lot more creative and think outside the box and do the very best with their own resources.
It makes me think of that whole principle that, it's almost like the less you have, the more creative you are with what you've got, right? It's just a forcing mechanism to be like, okay, I only have this. How can I use this in the best and leverage what I have in the best way?
And also they tend to really hone that skill even further. Like in our business, it was our manufacturing ability, our craftsmanship, and the way that, and it was also our social skill, our social capital, our relationships. That's another thing. I think people often think of sustainable competitive advantage, or when they look at a business, immediately the product comes to mind, or the resources and capabilities of the business come to mind. But one thing that immigrant entrepreneurs really focus on is people, other people, social capital, community.
Yes, yes, yes. And how does that give them an advantage? Like, strictly from a business perspective, forget about even the emotional part, which is an advantage for sure. But from a business perspective, having that community, how is that an advantage for them, for their business?
In many, many ways. First of all, for example, when we were building our own business, as I mentioned to you, we focused on relationships. So our suppliers, they didn't have to give us these leather products that they were going to discard or that they were, keeping in there. But we went to them with the proposal that we want to buy it from them. And then, by the way, these suppliers today are owned by LVMH, by Chanel, by Kering Group, by Prada. They, at the time, they were also small family businesses.
Right, right, right. So the ultimate luxury brands here. We're giving you their scraps, their scraps.
The suppliers who worked for the luxury brands. And then when something will come out, they will say, "Oh, Mr. Ismail, I'm saving this leather for you." Or I know an amazing modelier who is based in Modena who can take your business to the next level. Or I know a client who can be interested in your product. Or I know a designer. So your business can, by investing in relationships, you are really investing in the future of your business. And I think this is an important, very important element. We would not be able to build our business today if we didn't have distributors who really became like family to us.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I just think this is such an important point, and this comes up with, in fact, I was literally just talking to a client yesterday about this, is really focused on growing. I mean, this sounds very, like, business-like, but, focused on growing your organic network. Right? And that's what you're talking about, and what you're also saying, it's not like, "Oh, I'm an immigrant to this country, and I'm just gonna grab hold of all the, Turkish people that are here, and we're gonna build this." You're not saying that, right? You're talking about a broader community, right? And then it's like those organic connections, which you wouldn't even have been able to think to even ask them, and yet they're thinking about it for you.
Yes. So in the book I say what unites us is bigger than what separates us. We never thought of only working, and by the way, yes, we employ majority of people we work with and employ are immigrants from Albania, from Armenia, from Yugoslavia in our factory, from
Because
eastern
that's
part
what
of
unites you, is
Turkey.
the immigrant status, not the ethnicity.
Exactly. But then you also unite because of shared values, because you all want your business to succeed. You all want to bring bread to the table, to put it in these terms.
We all wanna provide for our family. We all want to do good work. We all wanna feel like, we're sustaining our lives and we're thriving.
Exactly. And I think in the book, I also often talk about authenticity. But, yesterday I was speaking to this Kishlik and she said, it has been overused, and I couldn't agree more with her. It's an overused term, but authenticity doesn't mean you have to just spill and like everything. It's not that, but it's about trust. And this authenticity has to be there in your relationships. It shouldn't be, oh, let me be nice so that I can get deals. Let me behave in this way. Um, and the person is going to in the future help me in XYZ.
Yeah, so it's almost like the way you're defining authenticity is that I'm building relationships because I want to feel like we're building a relationship where we both can help each other and not for selfish reasons. And yet we are going to support each other and help each other succeed. That's what you're talking about.
Yes, that, and also maybe nothing will come out of it. You have to also prepare for that, because I'm here having tea with you and I'm genuinely interested in our conversation, but maybe something will come out of it, maybe it won't, but I'm here with an open heart and an open mind.
And to be honest, and again, not to put more assumption that something will come out of it, but it's like what you're talking about, like these are my words, but like you're planting seeds. You're just planting seeds and you're just saying, I care about people, I care about you being successful, and maybe just you connecting someone to someone else is all you've given, and that can make the biggest difference in the world.
Absolutely. Another thing, Winnie, suddenly the example of Hamdi Ulukaya came to my mind, Chobani. When he took over the abandoned craft factory, he saw people have lost their jobs who worked in the old craft factory. And he said, I didn't see sadness. They were not cursing, they were not screaming, but the livelihood of that hamlet outside of New York um, has been that craft factory. And suddenly, when it's gone, the livelihood of people is deeply affected, but the community is affected as well. And when he starts to build Chobani, his intention is to bring everyone back into the factory. And he's very much focused on community. He's very much focused on that, about giving. Maybe, it's not even, and it's done with the intention to make it better for other people.
Can you say a little bit about just a little bit specifically about what he did? Because what he did was pretty extraordinary in terms of how he built community and the way in which he sort of took care of those workers at the factory. Can you just say just a few more words about that? Because I think it was really fascinating.
When he started the business, and there was an article, maybe you can link it as well, that Stanford Social Innovation Review published. It's an excerpt, and they chose to publish the part where I detail about Hamdi Ulukaya and Chobani and how he used community when building his business. So he employed eventually he got everyone to work in the factory, but also he listened to others and their input. It wasn't this I am the big leader who knows what to do.
A distance. Yeah, right. Yeah, he brought them
He
close.
brought them in. And he says, I don't have external advisors, but I have people that are part of this community, people I've built the business with. And if I do anything wrong, I ask them, come and talk to me and tell me if you see anything that is going wrong.
Yeah. Right. Or going right, I assume too.
There's many things. I mean, from sports activities to hiring refugees to empowering healthier uh, eating and living. He goes above and beyond, and you never know if this is going to be necessarily, when you are today, especially I think when you are building a business, community part is either seen as on social media level or as something like for marketing purposes, but I very much see that community is part of the sustainable competitive advantage of Chobani. The business exists thanks to community. Another example is Duolingo. Duolingo started in Pittsburgh, and the founder, Luis Bonan, he was born in Guatemala during the Civil War, and he saw what lack of access to education can do. So he eventually starts Duolingo, but he builds it in Pittsburgh. And he says to this day, even a few days ago, he had a LinkedIn post that said, people told me going to Silicon Valley will be better for my business because that's where, the action is. But if I had gone to Silicon Valley, Duolingo will not exist today. It exists because of the people of Pittsburgh and the community at Pittsburgh. Duo Security, the founder of Duo Security, he is also Korean immigrant, I believe. He started the business in Ann Arbor, same thing. He to this day he gives back to the community, he gives back to people, but he is not focused on getting into Silicon Valley, let's say.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I think that's really such a big part of, what you have been able to bring out and point out about some of the unique characteristics of immigrant entrepreneurs and what they've done, which have maybe gone against the grain of what might be expected or what kind of quote common knowledge is around what makes a successful entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And I think, the other day I spoke at American Club of Paris. There was a girl who approached me afterwards, and she has a startup, and she said, look, I'm American. Maybe I'm too focused on profit, but you said immigrant entrepreneurs didn't put profit first. Um, how am I going to make money? I'm concerned. I want to make money.
I want to make money too, right?
I really like her, I like her directness, and I like that she asked me that question. But again, what I said, and I think this is an important point, by the way, because it's not that they don't care about profit, but because at the end of the day, I'm not naive. Without profit, you don't have a business. You need to make money, absolutely. But they don't start. They don't put profit the end and be all. It's not the thing that drives their business, but it's not everything, but it's about what value do I bring. And ironically, because they ask what can I be you what can I give, what difference will my business make, what will I do differently that will make an impact. But ironically, this is what allows them to have that success. What I'm trying to say is shift the focus, but of course you have to fry in your own oil. You have to make money. Doesn't mean money is not important, and this is not a charity at the end of the day, the business.
So, Neri, you just named a bunch of really important things in terms of profit not being the only thing, focusing on adding value, right? Bringing value and having impact, community and relationships. Is there anything else that you could talk about as it relates to like what differentiates immigrant entrepreneurs from a leadership perspective?
I would add, from a leadership standpoint, again, something that we are seeing today, it's the toxic leadership, I would say, like this cult, the leader who is at the center of everything, the people worship him or her. The immigrant entrepreneurs are, in my at least in my analysis, in my research, the ones who build businesses that last, build businesses of impact, are the ones who do not see themselves as the cult leader. Sorry to put it like in these terms. They don't see themselves at the center. Who they put at the center is other people. So whether it's Hamdi Ulukaya going out and asking for advice, or being open to advice of other people, or asking what value what can I give? It's never about them. it's not about them. It's not about their ego. It's not about, uh, look at me, the great thinker and leader who can do this. There is a leadership, but there is not this, I am the only one who knows the answers and I am the only one who can lead this business to success. There is humility. There is humility. And it doesn't mean they don't have strong personality. It doesn't mean that, but there is humility. And it's not about them. It's not about them.
Well, and I imagine, like, that humility, came about from being an immigrant. I mean, you know what I mean? Because it's so hard and it can be I mean, it can be really humiliating, right? Humble comes from the word humiliate, right? I mean, essentially, right? And so when you come to another country as an immigrant, it can feel that way and it can be so hard. And so in some ways, that has maybe gotten cut off or has been softened, right? Because we're all human, right? But I think that experience is unique, in bringing that humility because it's been kind of developed.
So I will give another example if we have time with the Isaac Larian, who is the founder of MGA Entertainment, and he came from Iran with very little money in his pocket and with a yellow blanket that his mother knitted for him. And from absolute zero, he built his business and his life. And when he started, he didn't start with make he's the creator behind Bratz dolls and Little Tikes, these children's toys, and the LOL dolls, something
Yeah,
like
LOL
this.
dolls. Yeah, exactly. And you said brats, right? And the
Bratz.
brats. Yep, they're the brat dolls. Yep.
So quite well known, quite famous now. But he actually started with importing, exporting, um, like pro electronic products. That was his business initially. And when he is in Japan, he notices these Nintendo games that everyone is on, and he wants to bring them to US. But of course, Nintendo says no to him. He goes every day to waits in front of Nintendo, just trying to speak to the CEO. Hears no day after day after day. He comes back to US, opens a line of credit. He contacts the company again. They are like, "Can you not get it? We don't want to work here." And this is happening for more than a
Oh
year.
my gosh.
And he persists. And when he's asked, "Did you not feel humiliated? Like you are?" And when you said the word humble, and he said, "When you are an entrepreneur, you can never be humiliated. It's not about you. It's not about you."
It's so interesting because how can you have such persistency and not overly identify with it? You know what I mean? Like there's something really magic about that. Like how can you push and say, I want this. Like I see a vision and yet it's not like personal on some level.
In the book, I talk about it. It's one of the principles because they are very powerful at reframing. They are powerful at reframing rejection. They are powerful at reframing their past, their failures.
And reframing is the key. That's the key word, right? Is kind of having like a prism of a lens. Like you have multiple lenses, right, on yourself and your experience. So you're able to reframe, like you're describing.
Absolutely. And, you know, Isaac Larian says, no is when the beginning of business happens, is the beginning of negotiation. So all these no's that he was being told, he doesn't hear them as a no. To him, it's like I have a step in. It's one step closer.
We're talking, aren't we? Even if you're saying
Yeah,
no, we're talking.
exactly, exactly. You are still replying
That's
to me.
right. Which is totally a reframe right there, right? I mean, that's the beautiful reframe, right? Because if it was nothing, that's definitely a no. Like if you're getting no response, but hey, if you're saying no, we're still talking.
Exactly, and failure on the same. It's the same category. The founder of Calendly, before he founded Calendly, he failed multiple times. But when he's asked, you failed. He says, "Oh no, I didn't fail. It just all led me to Calendly was just experimentation.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And it's incredible. No is the beginning of business. No is the beginning of negotiation, and there is no such thing as failure, only lessons.
That's right. Only lessons. For anyone listening right now, is there any advice, if someone's listening that's an immigrant entrepreneur, if someone's listening who's just an entrepreneur, what do you want to leave people with?
I will leave them with the thought, with the, I guess, a saying that the same thing sits on the desk of Noubar Afeyan, who is the founder of Moderna. He was an Armenian Lebanese immigrant to US, and I'm sure many of you know who the founder of Moderna is. He says a saying that says, trust your crazy idea and keep going. I will add that.
Trust your crazy idea and keep going.
Yes, I add the keep going part.
Oh, you added the keep going part. I love that.
His is trust your crazy idea, and mine is keep going.
I love it. I love it. So, Neri, that's such a great way to end this. Thank you so much. And for those who are listening, really pick up your book. I mean, it's just an incredible book. It's so fun to read. There's so many stories as you've just been describing. And also it's really practical. I feel like there's just so many things that you can just apply and take away, right away.
That's what I'm hearing from many people. They say it's a great storytelling. We are very drawn to the storytelling. Your writing is very good, but also it's actionable. And I did deliberately at the end of each chapter, there is actionable steps that you can take to apply each principle.
Which is awesome because I love that combination of a good story, bringing it to life, but then what do I do and what can I actually take away from that and use for myself? And that's what's in there.
Exactly.
Thank
you.
you so much, Neri. This is such a fun conversation, and be safe. I wish you all the best, and I know we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Neri's story reminds us that immigrant entrepreneurs aren't just building businesses, they're also building bridges. They're bringing new ideas to life, navigating unfamiliar systems, and creating value in ways that are deeply rooted in resilience and reinvention. So, in a time when immigration is so often politicized, it's worth pausing to recognize just how much leadership, creativity, and insight comes from those who have had to start over. There is so much we can learn from immigrant entrepreneurs, not just how to succeed, but how to endure, adapt, and also lead with integrity. So next month, we'll be exploring a brand new theme, which is going to be this: leaders with ADHD, their strengths, challenges, and the power of thinking differently. And I'll be joined by two women who bring deep insight into their lived experience to this conversation. First, we'll hear from Amy Shilliday, a neurodiversity advocate and learning expert, and Stephanie Schiller, founder of Grow Disrupt and a champion for ADHD entrepreneurs. Together, we'll explore how neurodivergent leaders can reimagine productivity, lead with empathy, and thrive by embracing how their brains actually work. You really won't want to miss it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Transformative Leadership Conversations. Please join me as we explore a new leadership every single month. So if you're ready to take your own leadership to the next level or empower your teams for success, I'm here to help. Reach out to me directly at winnie@winifred.org or check out my website at www.winniedasilva.com to learn more about my work in coaching executives, developing critical leadership skills, and working with clients to build effective teams. You can also find me on Substack and LinkedIn. Because you are always welcome to take a seat at the table where every conversation has the potential for transformative change.